Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Everyone, we welcome you all to this class, the level 2. Today we'll be doing chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita, Attaining the Supreme. Before we begin, I'll just do one small kirtan. If any of you would like to do kirtan, you could always take it up and do a kirtan in the beginning of the class before we start. Today is Ekadashi. Have you been able to keep the Ekadashi? Jalpa Mataji, Roma Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I don't do full fast because I go to school. I'm working, so I just have no grains.
That is actually what I am also thinking to do, because I have migraine, and right now also because of fasting I'm having severe headache, so my body just can't take fasting.
Yeah,
So
actually,
my mother was advising, you just don't take grains and beans and don't fast. That is what we were talking about.
Yes, you should just do that because it's more important to chant and be able to do devotional service. If you have headache and you feel weak, you won't do extra chanting and devotional service. So then, or reading something extra, we should do. Fasting is secondary, but fasting from grains is possible. We just need to stock up the kitchen with things like sabudana, makhana, or potatoes, or fasting food.
Yeah, that is what my mother was also saying.
So I'll just quickly sing Madhurashtakam and then we'll start today. Adharam madhuram
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Paranam
Hare,
madhuram
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare,
Pasitam madhuram
Ram Ram, Hare
Hridayam madhuram
Hare Ram, Hare
Kamanam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakhilam madhuram Vachanam madhuram Charitam madhuram Vasanam madhuram Valitam madhuram Chalitam madhuram Brahmitam madhuram Madhuradhipate madhuram Venur madhuraha Pani madhuraha Padau madhurau Nrityam madhuram Sakhyam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakhilam madhuram Geetam madhuram Geetam madhuram Bhuktam madhuram Suktam madhuram Rupam madhuram Tilakam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakhilam madhuram Geetam Karanam madhuram Taranam madhuram Haranam madhuram Ramanam madhuram Vamitam madhuram Shamitam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakhilam madhuram Gunja madhura Mala madhura Yamuna madhura Vichi madhura Salilam madhuram Kamalam madhuram Madhuradhipate Rakhilam madhuram Gopi madhura Leela madhura Yuktam madhuram Muktam madhuram दृष्टं मधुरं शिष्टं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं गोपा मधुरा गावो मधुरा यष्टिर्मधुरा सृष्टिर्मधुरा दलितं मधुरं फलितं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपतेरखिलं मधुरम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So let's start. We are doing this Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme. It's called the death chapter because it talks about mainly death, which is the final examination. So we prepare for so many things in life. We prepare for all these different tests and promotions and this and that. But then we forget that the most important thing we have to prepare is for the final examination. Will we be able to remember Krishna at the moment of death? It's very difficult to remember Krishna at the moment of death unless you remember him all the time and unless you practice it. That's why Krishna consciousness is the biggest help for all of us, where we can, at least pass the final exam. At least we can strive to remember Krishna at the final moment of our the final examination of this life. So before beginning, let me pay my humblest obeisances to the beautiful deities of Shri Shri Radha Govinda Temple ISKCON Mangalore. And also, I would like to share that all the teachings are on the basis of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya International Society for ISKCON Consciousness. And if there is any mistake that I make, or if I ask for forgiveness, and I seek your blessings that I don't deviate at all. All glories to founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, his disciple, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, and his disciple, our temple president, His Grace Nam Nishtha Das, and my Guru, Aishwarya Mataji. नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सादैव तं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्ण पादं सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम रामा हरे हरे. So in chapter 7, we had been looking at how Krishna tells us the importance of listening, Tat Shrunu, and then he goes on to explain about how he is the source of both material and the spiritual energies. Then he talks about the three modes being controlled by Krishna, and therefore it is the wise people will surrender, and how the impious people, however, will never surrender because of lack of knowledge, and the pious people develop knowledge and they surrender, and others are there who surrender to demigods or who start following impersonalism, and the reason why they do so is because they don't have the true knowledge. So the bewilderment of the living entity and then the freedom through knowledge of Krishna. is what we looked at in chapter 7. It was the first bhakti chapter in which Krishna is actually, he speaks about himself and he explains about who he is. And so those who want to really understand God and who is he, who is God, what are his energies, what does he do, he explains about himself. And Arjuna will keep asking for more and more, because he keeps, when you love someone, you want to know more about him. So we see how the entire bhakti chapters are going to be very beautiful, because we're just going to keep on understanding Krishna more and more. And of course, we can never understand him fully. So it'll just make us, be more and more in awe of him. And the ultimate goal is to develop prema. So slowly we start gaining attraction and understand as we understand Krishna. So in the first four verses, we are going to look at Arjuna's questions. So Arjuna will be putting forward in this chapter a few questions which are of great significance, and we will see Krishna will immediately answer them. And then one of the questions will be related to death, so which Krishna will take the entire chapter to answer. So he will talk about the most important point from 8.5 to 8.8, which is you need to remember Krishna at the moment of death, when you are struggling for your breath and when your voice is choking, and in that difficult situation, if when you're not having any attachment or sense of proprietorship, and if you have been developing the taste for Krishna, only then you will be able to have Krishna nama on your lips, or think of him when you're passing away. So it's about remembering Krishna and how we have to practice. And then from 8.14, we will see pure devotional service is the remembrance of Krishna all the time. And then from 8.70 to 22, we will have a comparison of the material and spiritual worlds. There are many people who study the whole Gita, but still they don't even understand that there are two, there is a spiritual world. Krishna explains in so many verses with so much clarity. You can just look at the translation and you can understand that there is a spiritual world which Krishna talks about where he resides. But there is still, there is a people who will not be able to open their eyes and see that, because they are at the level of merging. So then they will not be able to see that there's a spiritual world to go to, because they're obsessed with the idea of just merging. Then we have finally we have the supremacy of devotion in attaining the supreme. So although there are so many different parts which we have been looking at, Krishna will once again talk about how bhakti is the best way to attain the supreme. So Ravi Prabhu has posted the attendance link. So I would request all of you to kindly mark your attendance before you continue listening. So let's look at how Krishna's answers are to Arjuna's questions. So the first question is, Arjuna is inquiring, "O my Lord, O Supreme Person." These are his questions. He says, "What is Brahman? What is a self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me." So these are questions which are related to his previous verses of chapter 7 at the end. So that's why these questions have come. And we have, how does this Lord of sacrifice live in the body? And in which part does he live, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So these two verses are important, because especially the last question is the most important. How is it that those engaged in devotional service can know you at the time of death? So Krishna, once you become a devotee, a pure devotee, Krishna will actually help you remember there really isn't any need to worry when you're a devotee. That's the most important takeaway from this chapter at the end. So the verses, okay, I'll not see the verses. So this is just a connection from the last chapter. Like I told you, in the last verses, Krishna has used all these terms. So, it's not like Arjuna doesn't know, but because he knows that this Gita is going to be forever, for a very long time, going to be revered and studied. So, for the sake of understanding of the common person, he asks the meaning of the terms that Krishna uses in 7.29, 20, and 30, where he says, Jara Marana Mokshaya Mamashritaya Shritya Yatanti Ye Te Brahma Tadvidu Krishnam Kritsnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakhilam. So here and then he says Sadhi Bhutadhi Daivam Mam Sadhi Yagyam Cha Ye Viduhu Prayana Kale Picha Mam Te Vidur Yukta Chetasaha. So these words have been used by Krishna when he's talking. He says Brahma, he says Adhyatma, Adhidaivam, Adhiyagyam, Prayanakale. So the same words related to that is what Arjuna is now asking. He wants to understand these terms better so that he can understand the purport better. So these are subject matter, all these are subject matter of knowledge. So this is from a Prabhupada lecture for this verse. It says Kim Brahma. Brahma is basically Brahman. Kim Brahma. Brahman means the biggest. Brahannatvat, Brihatvat. Biggest, it is already the biggest, but it is increasing. That is the Brahman, cosmic manifestation. So Brahman is also referred to, it's not, people get confused with Brahma, who is a who is in charge of the creation, but this is Brahman, which is related to the manifestation. Universe, it is already the biggest, but it is constantly increasing. Even scientifically, modern science says that the universe is constantly expanding. So a Vaishnava philosophy, biggest means Krishna, because he's the richest, he's strongest, he's wisest, he's most beautiful, and therefore he is the biggest. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, as we had seen in verse 5.29, Krishna says that I am Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the Maheshwaram, which means the supreme owner or proprietor of the entire universe and every planet in it. So actually, Krishna is the Para Brahman. He is not Brahman. The Brahman is like, is our soul. And the Para Brahman is like the Lord. So that is accepted. Kim Adhyatmam. Atma means this body. So Atma generally means the soul, but in many verses, in that particular context, you can figure out that Atma, Srila Prabhupada helps us to figure out that in some of the verses, Atma will be referring to body. Sometimes it will also be referring to body and mind and soul. So there are Atma is used in a variety of places. So you have to just refer to Srila Prabhupada's translation to understand in that context how it is used. So Atma means this body, Atma means the self, Atma means the mind. But Arjuna is asking, what is the real meaning of Atma? So, if you ask for the real meaning, the answer would be Atma means the soul. You are also Atma, I am also Atma. So, we have heard that I am not this body, I am the soul, right? So, that Atma is the actual meaning. But in several contexts, it is used as body and mind, and it includes all of it. So, every one of us, the minute particle, we are part and parcel of Krishna. Kim karma, this karma is work. That is material. Working is required in the material world. Without working, you can't get anything. You have to work to get your body and mind together. So Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Purushottama, Uttam Purush. So there are three kind of Purushas. Purusha is basically the enjoyer or the male. So Uttama Purusha, Madhyama Purusha, and Adhama Purusha. Adham will be the lowest, and we are also Purushas. At least we have taken the position of Purusha to enjoy this material world. Krishna clearly explains in the verses that the body is taken and it enjoys the material world. So, for example, in the verse 13.22, also Krishna will be speaking about, he says, Purushah prakristho hi bhunte prakritijan gunan. So he says Purushah, that is the soul in this case, the Jivatma is in the Purusha Prakristho, is in the material world. Purusha Prakristho bhunte. Bhunte is he is enjoying the three modes of material nature. So he's enjoying this material nature, and he's actually, in another verse also, he talks about how it's the nature of the Purusha to be enjoying the natural world. But we must remember that we are Adhamam Purush. Why are we the lowest? Because we cannot enjoy independently. We require favorable circumstances. Just like as we cannot see within this without sunrise, still we're very proud that we are seeing. And then we're like, can you show me God? We can see, can you see God? You cannot see sunshine and still you're so proud of your eyes. That is called adhama. So basically we are so proud, we can't even with our material senses see God, and our knowledge is so less. Still people take PhD degrees, they get Nobel Prize and so on, and then they think that they are highly knowledgeable. So that is the kind of pride that people have. So Krishna is a Purushottama, the Uttam Purush. Madhyama Purush is a super soul between the Krishna and we. So the super soul of Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna, and he is present in all the living bodies. And so he would be the Madhyama Purusha. We are, and then we as a Jivatma, we would be the Adham Purush, because we are only enjoyed of our material body, and there are limited, there's limitations for our enjoying of the material nature. So Krishna is addressed as Uttam Purush, the best of all Purushas. Krishna says, I am the supreme enjoyer. So the whole reason why we are trapped in material bodies because we are envious of that fact. So the moment we understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna and that Krishna loves us and we'll be happier when we accept this truth, then we are set free. So Adhibhutam, the matter, 5 elements of matter, that is Adhibhutam refers to that. Kim Proktam, which of them are called Brahman, Atma, everything. Krishna, Arjuna wanted to know from Krishna. So it's not like Arjuna doesn't know, he wants to know from Krishna. What is Adi Daivam? So Adi Daivam includes all the demigods. And who are the demigods? They are given the charge of controlling all the universal affairs. For example, rain, the water supply is Indra Deva, and he's a demigod, he is in charge of that. Heat and light, we have Surya Deva. For moon, we have Chandra Deva. So there are all different demigods in charge of different things. The Chandra Deva, for example, is in charge of activating the vegetables, and that is what the moon is responsible for. It's not been proven in the science. Someone can actually take it up and start researching how the moonlight it makes the vegetables juicier. In this way, all these demigods have got different powers invested upon them by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are agents, they are called the demigods, and they are about 33 crore of demigods, and they are controlling all the activities. So, astronomy means astral influence upon us, and according to astral influence, we act. Therefore, horoscope is made at the time of birth. A person's situation according to different astral influence, and then the astrology science can make his horoscope, his future activities, his future hopes, and all that. But of course, the devotees, the devotees horoscope, whenever an astrologer also sees that you're a devotee, they know that all the lines start changing, because the moment you start chanting, you're burning up all your karma and all your sinful reactions, right? So then there's a huge change in whatever has been destined previous to before when the karma is not yet burnt. So those were simply from a lecture of Srila Prabhupada when he was discussing these verses. So I thought I'll share that with you. So now these are the answers given in a tabular form. So what is Brahman? It's a spirit. It's generally referred to as a jiva. It's not Parabrahman, it's a jiva, or the indestructible living entity like the Atman. The Adhyatma is the nature of the jiva. It's the controller of the body. So Adhyatma. Karma is the actions which lead to the material body. Karma are the fruit of activities. Adhibhuta is material nature, and Adhidaiva are the universal form which includes all the different demigods. And Adi Yajna is a supreme enjoyer, the Paramatma existing within all the living entities. And where does Adi Yajna reside? He resides in the heart of every living entity. Not only living entity, even inside every atom. How to remember Krishna at the time of death? You simply need to practice remembrance throughout your life. So that is, sorry. So those were the questions asked, and I've already explained the answers in the tabular form, but let's see how Krishna is going to be answering all that. So in 8.3, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmamuchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaro Visargah Karma Sangitah. The Supreme Lord said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called the Self. Action pertaining to the development of these material bodies is called karma or fruitive activity. So you can see how the Jivatma will pass from baby, from all the different stages of one life, and then based on its guna and its nature, the modes it has, which has been followed throughout the life, and the karma, etc., and the desires also. Person keeps on taking new bodies one after. There are countless bodies which are there suitable for all these different experiences which the Jivatma needs to undergo because of its not being a devotee. So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the 8.3, I finished this one, no? Yeah, so this is just a same verse, but here we have some pictures are slightly different. It talks about how, based on the different inclinations, people will get the different kinds of bodies. Like somebody just eats everything, he will end up getting a hog body. If you're not bothered about the place or the person with whom you want to have sex with or mate with, you will get the body of a dog, because a dog can just do it anywhere. And similarly, if you are doing devotional service, you will, and you have not yet reached there, you'll be born as a devotee. And so it's based on the kind of things that you do that you will enjoy. This person is doing a lot of good jobs, charitable, he's giving some you know donation or charity to a brahmin, so then he gets to enjoy the higher planets. So based on the kind of karma you're doing, you will be getting the next body. And that happens, just because of the Daivi power. It's just there's an observer, this the witnesser all the time. He's witnessing how what is not in our hands, based on our desires. He's sitting in our heart, he's observing what are our desires, what are the karma we are doing, and accordingly you will have to take the body. It's not within our control. That's the reason why it is urgent for us to chant, because for a devotee, at least once you come to Krishna consciousness, it is at least guaranteed that you will get a human body. So that has been said in the scriptures. So even though you may not reach the highest realization within this birth, at least if you follow Krishna consciousness, you can be have the guarantee that you will at least get a human body, or you don't have to go through the whole evolutionary process by going back into some other lower living entity. So in 8.4, let's read 8.4, it says, Adhibhutan Charo Bhavaha Purushashchadhidaivatam Adhiyagno Hamevatra Dehe Deha Vritam Vara. The physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. The universe is a cosmic form of the Supreme Lord, and I am that Lord represented as a super soul dwelling in the heart of every embodied being. So that is what 8.4 is telling us. So with that, we can move on to the next section, which is 8.5 to 8.8, remembering Krishna at the time of death. So in these verses, we are going to understand how one attains whatever one remembers at the time of death. So the thing you remember is very, very important. Krishna recommends that Arjuna should undeviatingly think of Krishna, meditate on him all the time. And he says, you do this war, this is what you have to do, but you simply dedicate it to Krishna, and thus you will attain Krishna at the end of this birth. This is how he says that. He says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasyatra samshayaha. Whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So this is the ultimate end of Krishna consciousness, that is Antakale. So this verse is of great significance. So I have taken down some notes from Srila Prabhupada's lectures again. So the ultimate end.
Haribol, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Sorry, before we proceed, I had a doubt. The Brahman we've been discussing in the last two verses, they are not the same as Brahman, which the Brahman, the one aspect of the absolute truth, right?
There are actually in some, like I told you, for Atma, Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mataji.
What I understand is, Mataji, that Atma, just as it is used sometimes in the context of only soul or Jivatma, sometimes it is also includes the body and the mind. Similarly,
Okay.
Brahman is like we had seen in the earlier in the verse, Brahman is like everything, the entire material universe. The entire universe also is called Brahman at times. But then here when we talk about Brahman, we talk about Brahman and Parabrahman. So Brahman is like the soul, the Jivatma, and Parabrahman is like the super soul or Paramatma. So it is the meaning does vary in different contexts, is what I have understood.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Thank
you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So that is the ultimate end of Krishna consciousness, Antakale. So why are we following this Krishna consciousness? So that we will succeed in the Antakale. At the time of death, we are able to Mameva, that is Krishna alone, remembering, smaran. The deity worship especially meant for this purpose, so that you can go on worshipping the deity of Radha and Krishna. So deity helps us to, Krishna actually agrees to come in the deity form and to take our service, so that we can constantly remember him through this service. So when you have this deity and you're constantly worshipping Radha Krishna, naturally you'll be practiced to think of him. It'll be, you'll be able to remember him all the time. Like Radha and Krishna are both the same, right? Krishna, Radha is an expansion of Krishna. So this practice is required. Anta kale chama meva smaran muktva kalevara. This is mukti. Mukti means not just leaving the material body. This, we are now conditioned by the material body. In the material world, we are changing from one body to after another. But there is no mukti. We are going on changing into new bodies. So mukti is simply by changing the body, we don't become mukta. Mukta is we change this body and we don't get another body. So Srila Prabhupada has clearly explained that basically when you don't get another body, that is the kind of mukti that we're talking about here. We remain in the spiritual body. It's not the liberation which you're talking about, where the soul gets merged. That's not the one. It's talking about not getting another body again. So just like if you're diseased, suppose you're suffering from fever. So when there is no fever, but you're still having the healthy body, so then you're mukt of the disease. It's not that you're becoming formless. So some people think that okay, mukti is when you have no more form. So the same example, you're suffering is you're suffering from fever. To become free from fever does not mean you become formless. Why should I become formless? The form is there. My form is no longer disturbed by the fever. That is what we are calling roga mukta, or free from disease. So therefore it is called mukta kalevaram. So just like a snake can give out his outer covering, if you have seen, Prabhupada is asking, have you seen that? But he remains in that body. He has just given up his skin. So everything, every education is there in the nature study. If you study, you can find the answer in nature. We can see how the snake is giving up his covering. He remains in his form. Similarly, mukta kalevaram means that just like this dressing is a covering, I can give it up, but still I remain in my original body. Similarly, mukti is I'm giving up. I've got this body. It's covered by material coating. So there is no more material coating, and that is called the mukti. And that, how is that attained? When you go to Krishna, when you go back to Godhead, at that time you will, it's not that you become formless, that is, you don't become nothing. It's not like you will just merge into void. So as I'm an individual form, similarly when I go to Krishna, Krishna also has an individual form and I also have an individual form. So nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam, this is given in the Kathopanishad 2.2.13, where Krishna is the chief of all living entities. So that's called mukti. So that mukti you can have if you can remember Krishna at the time of death. So this is possible if we practice to think of Krishna always naturally at the time of death, at the time of the end of the body. We are so fortunate that we can think of Krishna, his form. Then we become materially free. No more we'll have the material body. So we need to practice Krishna consciousness. So yah prayati samad bhavam yati. You get my form. What is Krishna's form? In quality, we are the same as Krishna. So we get that, we get all the qualities. So in the 4th chapter, we have read that Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Jati Madbhavam. Okay. So that Madbhava, here it is said Yah Prayati. So anyone who is passing away, who is leaving this body, thinking of Krishna at the time of death, Yah Prayati sa Madbhavam Yati. Madbhavam is spiritual nature, like I just told you. The quality is same as Krishna. So this is Krishna's world. And this is not spiritual world alone. This is a material world. We have already discussed that Krishna has 2 energies, material and spiritual. Material world is a manifestation of Krishna's material energy. Similarly, there's a spiritual world because his spiritual energy is also a one of his energies. So Mad Bhavam Yati means spiritual energy, and Krishna remains in that spiritual world. So he says Mad Bhavam, spiritual nature. There is no guarantee that after so much time you will die. At any moment you can die. So we need to be, why we need to be especially ready? maybe just after this class, I may die. Anyone can die at any moment. So you can't think that, oh, I have so much of time. Remember, Yudhishthira was answering the question, what is the most amazing thing? People keep thinking of themselves as being immortal. They don't realize that death can come at any moment. Every breath, we are getting one breath closer to our death. Every sunset, we are getting one day is getting and is ending, and we are getting closer to our death. Only thing is, we don't know when it is going to be, but we know that it is surely going to happen. Therefore, we must be prepared for death at any moment. And a devotee is never afraid of death. He knows that death can come, and his only duty is to just practice thinking of Krishna, the Purushottama. There is no other duty. How to remember Krishna 24 hours? That is the greatest process of yoga. That is basically yoga perfection. Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatena antaratmana. Mad gatena antaratmana is always thinking of me. He becomes a first class yogi. So the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is very nice. That's why I have put this slide of chant Hare Krishna and be happy. All you need to do in this Kali Yoga is chant. So today is Ekadashi. I request everyone, even whether you could follow the Ekadashi or not, try to at least chant one extra round from what you usually do, or do a little bit of extra devotional as a read a extra page or verse, do something more, do some devotional service. And then when you're remembering Krishna, you're safe. You're sure that in not only in this life, but also you are going back home, back to Godhead. And it's a very nice thing. If you're able to chant offenselessly, you can go back. So I was just talking about the story right now, and then we have this in the slide, which is a verse in the Mahabharata, which is Arjuna's answer to the question, what is the greatest surprise? He says hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful or amazing or surprising thing. 8.6, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamaivaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will surely attain without fail. So here we can see in the picture the famous story of Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat Maharaj is a very great, highly elevated devotee. He had all the comforts and opulences in his life, but he just gave them all up because he knew that devotional service is ultimately the only goal in life. However, he got distracted when he got attached to a little deer, and at the time of his death, he was remembering the deer, and therefore he had to take up a deer body. And then we have a whole series of story how he next took the body of a Jadabharata, where he was able to remember this dear birth and his previous birth, and how much he took all measures to ensure that he doesn't get attached to the material world at all. So this is the entire story depicted in pictures, how he saved a little deer and how he was, although he was performing devotional service, he was constantly thinking of him, and he was lost in him, and so he had to take a dear body at the next birth, and all his devotional service which he had done practiced that birth, he couldn't attain that ultimate goal within one birth. Yet Krishna was so benevolent and kind that from the dear body gave him the capacity to remember all everything in his previous life, so that he was able to get a human body thereafter from there and start from wherever he had left. 8.7 we can see tasmat sarveshu kaleshu manusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasya samshayam. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. So here he is very clearly saying, think of me in my form, like in my two hand, this form, and at the same time carry out all your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to Krishna. Mind and intelligence fixed on Krishna, you will attain him for no doubt. So we know that how Krishna is explaining how it is that you can attain Krishna, no doubt. So here we can see a picture of Prahlad Maharaj, how it was so amazing that when he was, born itself, he was born a devotee. So much so, he was so pure that he got all the other Asura children, all of them, the from the demonic families, they were all, he got them to chant. So, and he got them all to enjoy the bliss of simply remembering Krishna's names. So 8.8, Krishna says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. So he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he was sure to achieve. So here we can see the picture of Ajamila. Ajamila was a very great devotee in his, he had past pious deeds already accumulated. So he was born in a devotee family, and he was Ravi Prabhu has put the attendance once more. Please mark your attendance if you haven't already. Yes. So Ajamil's story is that he, however, it's very easy to get distracted, and he got distracted with a prostitute, and that was a cause for his fall. And he just ruined his life. He did so many bad activities after that. But Krishna knew that he's a devotee, and Krishna wanted to save him, and therefore he made Ajamila, when he was naming his youngest son, to name him Narayana. So we can see that from the verse, there's a verse which talks about Sanketyam Parihasyam Va. So in this verse, Krishna, in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly said that even if you're just Sanket, just like that, you're chanting Parihasyam or jokingly, or you're saying it like a just music, or you're not, chanting the name so respectfully, still the name has so much of power. So when he calls out at the last moment, he's able to see that the Yamadutas are coming and pulling his soul out, and he's calling out, and the Vishnu, because he said the word Narayana at the time of his death, he was actually calling his younger son. So he was calling with so much of, with his full soulfully, he was calling out that the Vishnu Dutas immediately appear, because he said the name Narayana. And then the Yamadutas have to run away, and Ajamila gets a second chance in the same birth. He realizes all his mistakes in that moment, and then he starts practicing devotional service, after which in his final moment thereafter, the Vishnu Dutas are taking him back to Godhead. So here we can see in this text, there's a Lord Krishna is stressing on the importance of remembering him, and he's talking about the benefits of chanting, how to think of Krishna in practical life. Constantly thinking of Supreme Lord in any of his features is possible by chanting Hare Krishna. So when you're chanting, you would be constantly thinking, oh Krishna, oh the energy of Krishna, let me be of your service. I don't want to be engaged in this material world. I want to always remember you. I want you to use everything, and I want you to use my life in your service. I don't want to have anything for myself. I have no more desire. So this kind of thought process should be there. If it's difficult, at least just listen to the Hare Krishna mantra as you're chanting. So practice is purifying, and at the end of life you will be transferred to the kingdom of God. Most effective ways to chant Hare Krishna: revival of memory of Krishna. If you're chanting, your ear, your tongue, your mind are all engaged, you attain Supreme Lord and his planet. The analogy is how a caterpillar. So here Krishna says that the analogy is given, I think, by Srila Prabhupada, is that how a caterpillar constantly meditating on how it will be to be a butterfly, yeah, he ultimately becomes a butterfly. So then when we constantly chant Krishna, we will ultimately reach Krishna Loka. So that is all we need to do. Whatever else we are doing, we need to remember Krishna. He is who is Krishna? We understand him as being the Param Purusha. He is a real enjoyer. And it is confirmed that the Lord is a person when he recommends meditating on his form as a person. So next let's look at Krishna, remembering Krishna through meditation, by meditating on Krishna and his qualities, or by practicing Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So sometimes there is something called Yoga Mishra Bhakti, where you're not in so pure bhakti, but it's a mixture of both the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and all is mixed up. So one can think of Supreme Personality of Godhead when quitting body and reach the spiritual planets. Kavi Puranam Manushasitaram Manuraniyam Shamanusmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. So here in 8.9, Krishna is a very beautiful verse. It says that Krishna tells us how we can remember him. He says that we should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, the all-knower, the oldest, the controller, the smallest. He is smaller than the smallest, and he's a maintainer of everything. He's beyond all material conception, inconceivable, and he's always a person. he's a person with all the emotions. He is luminous like the sun, and by being transcendental, he is beyond his nature. So he is also a renunciate. We must remember that he is also a renunciate. Although he is a supreme controller and everything is in his control, he doesn't get attached to anything. He is not under the control of the modes. That's what it means when we say that he's a renunciate. How to think of Krishna? So in this verse, we can see that we can think of Krishna as Kavim. Kavim means a person who knows everything. Puranam. Everything is born out of him. He is the cause of all causes. Anushasitaram. He is the controller. Anur Aniyamsham. He is a smaller than the smallest. Dhataram. He is a maintainer. He is also the Rupam, which is he is a person beyond all material conception. All big planets are floating by his energy. He's Achintya. You can never think of understand him. He's inconceivable. He is Aditya Varnam. He is luminous like the sun. He is Tamasa Parastat. He is transcended. He is beyond the material nature. So there are so many. Krishna is explaining how are the different ways that he can be remembered. So even Brahma is always meditating upon. He is able to do all his work because he is meditating upon the Lord. And when he's talking about the Lord, we can see everybody there are sitting and meditating upon the Lord. And Shiva is also constantly, he loves explaining to Parvati Devi the glories of the Lord. And he is also constantly remembering Krishna. प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमवेश्य सम्यक् satam param purusham upayati divyam. So in 8.10, Krishna is saying that one who at the time of death fixes his life air between eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what do we see here? We see that Prayana Kal is at the time of death. So just like students, they prepare 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they give their college examination, final test, and if they pass, they get the degree. Similarly, in a living condition, if we prepare for the examination of time of death and we pass the examination, then we are transferred to spiritual world. There's a nice saying in Bengali where it says, Bhajana kara pujan kara mrityu kale haya. Whatever you do for perfection at the time of death, it will be tested. So the quality of how our devotional services, it will be tested at the time of death. That is a final exam. So for the yogi, the process is how to give up the body. After being situated in a yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. So that's what it is saying, this Omik Tekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yah Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramangatim. So here we can see that person who are learned in Vedas, who utter Omkara and who are great sages in the renounced order, they enter into the Brahman. Desiring such perfection, he practices celibacy. And now Krishna says that he's going to explain the process one by one. So in 8.12, Krishna will be saying, 8.12, Krishna says, Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yad Yatayo Vitaragaha Yadichanto Brahmacharyan Charanti Tate Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. So Krishna is saying here that the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement. So he needs to control all his senses. It's not like a devotee who will use all his senses in the service of the Lord. He will close all the doors of senses. He will fix his mind on the heart and the life air on the top of the head, and he will establish himself in yoga as per 8.12. This is how he will be. And how can what happens when he, in such a state, he passes his body? He gives up his body. This is what we're saying. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of Supreme Personality of God and quits his body, he will reach the spiritual planet. So we have been discussing about transmigration of the soul. This is from a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. There are different kinds of transcendentalists, as we have been keeping on repeating in both our past several classes. So we can see that there is the yogis are Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Bhakti Yogi, and all are eligible to transfer to the spiritual world. So yoga system is meant for linking our connection. So yoga, so we can look at another word which we have not said before. Yoga also means plus. So plus is like the opposite of minus. So now at present moment we are minus God. We are not actually connected. We are not in yoga. So we are minus God. So when we make ourselves plus, we are adding God to everything. Then a human form of life becomes perfect. So at the time of death, we have to finish that perfection. So long as we're alive, we have to practice how to approach that point at the time of death, so that when we give up the material body, we can achieve the perfection. So Bhagavad Gita is describing that we should do what we should do at the point of death. So for yogis, dhyana yogis, the prescription is recited: Sarva dwarani samyamya mano hridi nirudhya cha. So this system in the technical language is called pratyahara, which means that's the opposite of what we're doing in the normal life. Normally with the eyes we want to see the worldly beauty, and I have to retract from enjoying that beauty. I have to see only the inside beauty. That is pratyahara. Similarly, I have to hear the omkara sound within. So all the senses are stopped in external activities, and that is the perfection of the yoga and concentration of the mind on the Vishnu Murti, Mano Hridi. Mind is very agitating. So it has to be fixed on the heart. Mano Hridi Nirudhya. Nirudhya means just arresting the mind within the heart. Murdhni Adhyatma Pranam Asthito Yoga Dharanam. So in this way, we transfer the air life on top of our head. That is the perfection of what a yogi does usually. For devotee, this doesn't apply. A yogi does that. And a perfect yogi, he fixes up where he shall go, and he actually can choose which of the spiritual planets he can go to. The innumerable planets are there in the spiritual world, and beyond the planets there are spiritual worlds. So yogis, they have got information. Where have they got it? From the scriptures, from Vedic scriptures, they know. So just like before you go to a country, you get the description of the country, you read about it. Similarly, there is description of the different higher planets of the spiritual world. They are mentioned there. So the yogi knows, and he knows all this. So he can transfer himself into whatever planet he likes. It's given in Bhagavatam. This is not myth. It's not just, something which somebody has made up. It's given clearly in the Bhagavatam that these yogis who transfer the soul in this way, they gain the power, and he does not, it's not like he needs some Sputnik or some spacecraft to go. The Sputnik, the people are trying for so many years, so many thousands of years, but they don't even actually reach a planet. That's because in this particular material body, we can't go to most of these places. So those who are in devotional service of Krishna or in Supreme Lord, such people, they're not interested. Sorry. I think my screening has paused. Okay. Sorry about that. Where were we? Are you able to see the screen, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Mataji, we can see
Yes,
that.
Mataji.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so those who are in devotional service of Krishna, they are not interested in they are not interested in going to all these different planets in the material world also. Why? Because they know that in the material world, of course, they're not interested, because they know that you're just going to elevate yourself. You go there, but the four principles of material existence, birth, death, disease, and old age, are there in all the material planets. Any planet you go, duration of life may vary. It will be longer than the earth if you're going to any other planet. Okay, sorry. But those who are in Krishna consciousness, and those who are otherwise, those who are not interested in material life, material life is birth, death, disease, and old age, and spiritual life means relief from the botheration of all these. Those who are intelligent, they don't try to elevate in any planet within the material world. There are higher material planets where you get longer life, just like we are trying to reach the moon planet. Actually, Prabhupada says that if you get entrance into moon planet, very difficult to get entrance, but even if you get entrance, then a period of life will be enhanced. You will have much longer life. Of course, not in this body. You will have to enter. Perhaps if you enter with this body, you will have instant death. That's why you need to carry all those oxygen masks, and then also you can't see. You have to come back. But if you enter into higher planets based on yoga system, you get a suitable body for that particular planet. And every planet, there are different kinds of suitable bodies. That's what Srila Prabhupada says based on scriptures. So he says that you cannot enter just like that. Just like you cannot live in the water with this body, right? You can't just be there in water without having all those extra fittings. Or so similarly, you will get a body which is suitable for that. So you can make an experiment. You live there within water, 24 hours, 15 hours. But the fish and aquatic animals, they have a specific body meant for water. So they are living the whole life there in water. Similarly, if you take out the fish from water, they are finding it difficult to live on land. So the Srila Prabhupada is just trying to give us different analogies to make us understand. So as you see, even in this planet, that you have got to make your different kinds of body to live in a particular place. So similarly, if you want to enter into another planet, you have to prepare yourself to get that particular kind of body. So if anyone enters a moon planet also by yogic process, he can transfer his soul and then he can get a longer duration of life. In higher planets, our 6 months will be equal to 1 day. And such 1 month, 1 year, 10,000s of years they're able to live. That's a description we get from scriptures. So you can get very long duration of life, but there is death. After whatever 10,000, 20,000 millions of years, that doesn't matter. According to whatever's account there, death is there. The soul is not subjected to death. That's what we hear from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita also. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire from 2.20. The soul, there is never birth or death. Nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, primeval. The soul is not slain even when the body is slain. So your spirit soul is there. You are eternal. Why should you subject yourself to birth and death through taking different bodies? This is how the intelligent people will think. So Krishna yei bhaje shei bada chatura. If you people who actually take to Krishna consciousness, they are the ones who are truly intelligent. They're not interested to get promotion in any planet where there is death. Never mind long duration of life or whatever sense enjoyments. They want, just like God, they want Satchidananda Vigraha. So they want to have all the qualities of Lord who is God, Satchidanand. So Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha is in Brahma Samhita 5.1. Krishna, who is Govinda, he is eternal, blissful, spiritual body, and we are also the same eternal, spiritual, blissful body. Just the quantity is small, but we have it all. And he is the origin of all. He has no other origin. He is the prime cause of all causes. So God's body is Satchidananda. Sat means eternal. Chit is full of knowledge. Ananda is full of pleasure. So we have got this pamphlet. Most of you might have seen Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure. This is Srila Prabhupada is saying in the lecture. Similarly, if we transfer our body, ourself, leaving this body to a spiritual world in the Krishna planet or any other spiritual planet, then we get similar bodies, Satchidananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. So those who are trying to be in Krishna consciousness, their aim of life is different from those who are simply trying to promote themselves into a better planet in the material world. So Lord Krishna says, Murdhya adhaya atmana pranam asthito yoga dharanam. This is called perfection of yoga. If you can transfer yourself, you're a very minute particle, right? The soul is really, really small. You can't even see it. So that is sustaining the prana vayu. And the yoga system, the Shat Chakra system, is to get the soul from down to the top till the topmost part of the head. And this practice goes on while we're living. And the perfection is that when you place yourself on the top of your head, by fraction of the topmost head, you transfer yourself to the any higher planet that you like, as per whatever you like. That is a perfection. So yoga can transfer you to different planets wherever you like. Just as you're inquisitive to see the moon planet, so a yogi says, okay, I want to be in the moon planet, I want to enjoy higher planets. Like travelers, they go from New York, California, Canada. Similarly, you transfer yourself to so many planets by yoga system. Anyway, you go to same system, visa system, customs and all are there. So Krishna conscious persons, they don't want to go to any of these temporary planets. So far as the yogi is concerned, the process about giving up the body is being explained in 8.13. After being situated in the yoga practice, vibrating Om, the supreme combination, if one thinks of the Paramatma, supreme personality of God, and quits his body, he will reach spiritual planets. For the yogi, the prescription is at the time of death, point of death, Om. He produces Omkara in the concise form of transcendental vibration. So, Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan. If you can vibrate Omkara at the same time, Ma Manusmaram, plus remember him. The whole yoga system is to concentrate the mind on Vishnu. So, but the impersonalists, they imagine that this is the form of Vishnu or the Lord, and those who are personalists, they don't imagine. They actually see the form of the Lord. Now, anyway, either you concentrate your mind like an imagination or factually, you have to concentrate your mind in the Vishnu form. Here, Mam means unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Yah Prayati. So you can make out that in different contexts. Srila Prabhupada, he knows these the meanings in and out. So he's able to explain to us how the Mam is got different meanings in different places. So here, Mam, Srila Prabhupada explains that to us is the Supreme Lord Vishnu, Yah Prayati. Anyone who leaves his body, Tyajan Deham, quitting this body, so Yati Paramam Gatim. He enters the spiritual kingdom. So those who are actually yogi, they don't desire to enter planets because they also know that temporary planets, temporary life, so that is intelligence. Antavattu phalam tesham tat bhavati alpa medhasam. Men of small intelligence, they will worship demigods. Fruits are temporary. We saw this in great detail in chapter 7 just last week, right? So what are the practices of Yoga Mishra Bhakti? So this is it's describing in 8.10 and 8.13 has spoken about Yoga Mishra Bhakti, where the practices assist yoga in remembering Krishna, but the practices are not the end in themselves. So there is a Shat Chakra Yoga, which was explained in 8.10. You raise your life air to the Agnya Chakra, and then you chant the Om, and then you renounce sense gratification, especially sex life, and then you fix your mind on your heart, fixing your mind in devotion to the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So this is what is Yoga Mishra Bhakti. And then attaining the Supreme is when you think of Krishna while quitting the body. The impersonal Brahman you're thinking of. The impersonalists will be merging with the impersonalist Brahman, and the devotees, whereas you can see in the lower part of the picture, the devotees are constantly, the destination of devotees is innumerable Vaikuntha planets. So they can go to the innumerable Vaikuntha planets also. So anyone who's able to quit this material body in these circumstances simply by uttering the transcendental Om with full consciousness, he does transmigrate in the spiritual world. But those who are not personalists, they cannot enter the spiritual planet. They remain outside, just like sunshine and sun-disk. Sunshine is not different, sun-disk, but still sunshine is not a sun-disk. Similarly, those who are transferred in spiritual world, they remain in effulgence of Brahma Jyoti. Those who are not personalists, they are placed into that Brahma Jyoti as one of the minute particles there, spiritual spark in the Brahma Jyoti. So you become one of the spiritual spark and you merge into that spiritual existence. So although you do keep your individuality constitutional, but because you don't have and you don't want a personal form, therefore you're still there held in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Just like sunshine are small molecules, shining molecules. Those who are scientists, they know that. Similarly, we are also the small molecular atomic, less than atom. 1/10 is less than an atom the size. 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair is our position. That small part remains with the Brahma Jyoti as if homogeneous. So difficult is as living entity, we want enjoyment. So this is a difficult situation, Srila Prabhupada is saying. I am not only simply existence. I have got bliss, Satchidanand. I am composed of three spiritual existence, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So those who enter the impersonal effulgence, they remain eternally with full knowledge. I am not mixed up. I am homogeneous with the Brahman, bus. So, but they cannot have that eternal bliss because that part is wanting. So again, whatever we have been discussing for the past many classes, in these verses, Srila Prabhupada is again and again explaining to us. Difficulty is that when he feels, just like if you're confined in a particular room, you may go, you may engage yourself in reading for some time, but still you cannot remain for years or all the time. You'll find some association, some recreation. That is our nature. Similarly, when we merge into the impersonal effulgence Supreme Lord, there is a chance of falling down in the material world. So Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32 says, ये nye ravindaksha vimuktamaनिनस् त्वय अस्तभावाद अविशुद्ध बुद्धय आरुह्य कृच्छ्रेण परम पदम ततः पतन्त्यधो nadrita yusmad angraya. So it means someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, there are those who are not devotees, but they have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? So in answer to this question, Lord Brahma and other demigods are saying, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is actually impure. So they fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they don't have any regard for your lotus feet. So just like the Sputnik's, Srila Prabhupada is saying, the aeronautics, they go higher, higher, 20,000 feet, 20,000 miles away, whatever. But if they cannot take rest in some planet, they'll fall down. At once they fall down again. So the rest is required. In the impersonal form, the rest is uncertain. Therefore, in the Bhagavatam, it is said that Ahuya Krichena Param Padam Tata. Even after so much endeavor, if he gets into the spiritual world, remains in the impersonal form, the risk is that Patantya Adha, he comes down again. Why? Anadrita Yusmad Angrahaya, which means because he has neglected to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, and he has not, valued the devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So long as we are here, we have to practice to love Krishna, which is the ultimate goal. Then we can enter. This is a training. And if you're not trained up, then, the impersonal endeavor, we can enter into spiritual kingdom. There is risk of falling, because that alone, that loneliness will create disturbance, and you will want association. And because you have no association with the Lord, you will come back to the material world and associate with the material association. So better that we should know the nature of our constitutional position, which is we want eternity, we want knowledge, and we also want pleasure. So we want to be in a Satchidanand form. So if you're kept alone, you can't have the pleasure. You'll feel uncomfortable. For want of pleasure, you'll accept any kind of pleasure. And then that's a risk. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness, you'll have full ananda also. So best thing is to train yourself in the Krishna consciousness. And then Srila Prabhupada explains to us that it will be possible in this life at the time of death to transfer into the spiritual world and enter Krishna Loka, or the Krishna planet, and enjoy association of the Krishna's world. So I think today we will do this section 4 from the next class. I have Bhakti Shastri class which would have started at 7:30. Anyway, I'm truly grateful for all those who have come and attended the class today. We will complete the chapter 8 tomorrow. Please fill in the attendance, all of you who are present here. And if any of you would like to do some donation for Srila Prabhupada's address of ISKCON Mangalore, if anyone has already done, that's nice. But if you would like to contribute something, because the temple is coming up, and Namnishta Prabhu really wants it to be ready within a few months. By Janmashtami, he wants to have it done. And so we have many devotees, this is the opportunity. There's no fee for this course, right? But then what you contribute for that temple, which is not just a temple where the deity worship will take place, it's going to be a temple of learning. So as you can see, these free courses are there. Similarly, it will be a temple of learning. So I request you to either contact Sonia Mataji, or if you can see my number, and you can, we are actually, as a small group, we are endeavoring to make the dress for Srila Prabhupada inside the temple. So if you have already contributed, great. If you haven't contributed something, whatever is your capacity, even a small amount, say 500,000, even a small amount is a big deal. So do try to make some contribution towards the temple, because that's going to be like, there for always. And anyway, Krishna does talk about in the scriptures how we should try and give to Krishna in whatever way we can. It's the best form of charity rather than giving it anywhere else, right? This is giving the knowledge to other people is the highest thing for giving, rather than giving food or anything else. The knowledge of Krishna consciousness, which is what is the main endeavor of ISKCON Mangalore Temple. So I request you on behalf of the temple to make some contribution, either directly or to Sonia Mataji's number, because she's endeavoring to get something together. Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to share something?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Actually, I tried to do some donation to Sonia Mataji's number, but both GPay and PhonePe are not working.
Even I tried, Prabhuji. Even I just got my salary. I was trying to send it to her. It was not going. So today she
Yes,
was
Mataji.
trying to contact me. So I will find out, and I will let you know, Prabhuji, what is the problem with her number, or is there an alternate way to pay? Even I had
Okay.
tried to pay, but it was saying that it's not going. So I'll also
Yeah.
find out. Okay, thank you so much,
Okay,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Okay.
We'll find out. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Please join tomorrow, same time. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarusha कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.